Hey, and welcome to this episode of Co-Creating with AI. I'm Martin, and with me is Rasmus. How are you today, Rasmus? Are you as sunny and warm as me?
Yeah, the sun is not falling through my window yet, but
Mhm.
I was out earlier today and it's beautiful,
Yeah,
and I have a great view from here. So I'm yeah, just happy for the September. Like it's been
yeah.
great.
Huh. And
How are
people
you?
are talking about another warm, Indian summer month or period upcoming. So I
Oh,
guess
really?
we're getting our share of the global warming as well here up north in Sweden.
Yeah, as long as like the Gulf Stream doesn't turn, if that's still credible science, then I think like Sweden is just going to become better from it.
Yeah. Yes.
Consider. How are you,
As
man?
long.
How are you
Yeah.
today?
Yeah. I'm good. I like my headspace is completely filled of voice text to speech at this moment, and so I was happy to hear that we're going to talk about that, and because I I don't have space for much else right now, and that's good. And you had some nice framing for that, connecting it to last episode.
Yeah, I just think it was like I think it was a really good chat last week where I mean you pointed me to this article about the three paradigms like UX paradigms of
Hmm.
computers and
Yeah.
AI intent-based UI after a command-based UI is this third one that we're
Mm.
getting into now. And of course, I mean we've been chatting about that a bunch of times in this podcast, but for me the maybe the most interesting part of you know the next few steps in AI after these new models have come out is like how do you apply it and what are the new UIs?
Mm.
Like if we compare it from you know the previous paradigm of command based where we started with the command line, right? The terminal
Mm.
basically, and then we went to the graphical interface, which is maybe the next step of that. And I my framing is still that we in many ways are in this first terminal phase of
Yeah.
this new paradigm.
Yes.
And of course, we are both working on new UIs, and there are a lot of interesting things happening out there. But yeah, I think that's a nice framing for also how voice fits into this, because
Mm.
obviously that's, I mean, not obviously, but like in at least for me, it seems very likely that's going to play a big part.
Mm.
Because text and voice are so closely interconnected, and voice is, of course, much more natural in the sense that we've been speaking for, in some form for probably biologically for, since we basically, I mean, even before we were technically human. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, so I'd love to just hear what you're like, what you've experimented with and what you're excited about right now.
Yeah. Yeah, first, just to connect to what you're mentioning about the UI paradigm, uh, what I love about thinking about AI as intent-based UI is that it disconnects the thinking from chat. Right now, AI is so synonymous with chat, and if we think about it as, or if I think about it as intent-based, it means that I expand my mind to think about not like what how can I use AI in a chat manner, but or a chat UI, but how can I use AI in general? What is an if AI is an intent based interface to the world or to my computer, then what is the best version of an intent based UI paradigm, and how what different versions should exist in the future?
That's really
And
interesting, actually. So, sorry, just like to
yeah,
break in there,
yes.
like something came to me, like if we just look at like an intent-based paradigm,
Mm.
and maybe this is obvious to everyone, but I'll say it anyhow, is like, of course, first the thing is expressing intent.
Mm.
So then, of course, a good UI makes it easy to express intent. And then the other part of that is, of course, that that intent is understood and acted upon
Mm.
well, which is of course like part of like very core to what these new models offer us. But I still feel that, and then of course how the result of that intent of that the actions taken from that intent are expressed
Mm.
back to us. So I think
Mm.
there's something there, at least. I don't know, maybe that's a three-part framing for me in my head, at least,
Yeah.
that might fit to audio and where audio fits in, and text audio.
And what's exciting about thinking about it as about AI as an intent-based technology or paradigm is that intent can be expressed on so many levels. You all of a sudden you introduce abstraction, like so you can
Mm,
say, and what is currently going on is that we're pretty close to command paradigm still, because people are sharing prompts, like how do I get ChatGPT to write an email? So
yeah.
like pretty much the command or the intent is write an email. But if we get better and better autonomous agents or autonomous AI technology, it means that we can abstract the intent to why am I writing an email? Yeah, I want to acquire customers. So you could say that to like express that as an intent. If you have an agent, help me acquire customers. But it could also be like help me build a business or help me live a happier life.
Mm.
Uh, and so um, the UI is intent based, but that's going to play out on so many different levels. And just when AI gets more and more powerful and autonomous, that's going to change how UIs work as well.
I think that's a nice connection between intent and autonomy, actually,
Mm.
because the more autonomy the system has, the more higher level intents it can execute for you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like a really interesting exploration, like how you move up that stack,
Mm.
of intents. And
Yeah.
what's your sense with audio there? Does audio present like any like higher level possibility than text, or is that very like similar to text in what it offers us?
Yeah. So for me, audio represents a more ambient interface that you can if you have an audio based interface, you can invite the AI to participate in a meeting, or um, you can uh, talk to them hands free. If you're on the move, if you're on your bike or just traveling,
Mm,
you could like at the press of a button, or as if you're making a phone call, you can talk to the AI without having a keyboard in front of you. And I already feel that the friction of like chatting with the AI on my phone,
yeah.
like it's not um, as fast as on my laptop. And with AI, I need to be more expressive. Like if there's a reason for why we as humans have developed these emoticons and like short form language for talking on the phone with each other, and with AI that doesn't work. Like it doesn't pick up. We have to be very expressive in order to express intent currently. So I think on the phone, um, that the text-based interface needs to move toward more short form, like to be able to be very precise with AI, and also maybe to have like a pre-built custom instruction that is always there as a context, but also audio is a clue to the future of UI for AI.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's interesting also because I think there's, information being lost from being physically present with each other
Mm.
to video calls like this, to audio, and then to text. There's information being lost. So I think that, and information in this case is part of intent, right?
Yes.
That if I write to you, I have to be really careful to make you understand me,
Mm.
right? I mean, it's like there's this advice, right? Don't fight over text or email, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just going to escalate.
Mm.
You're not going to really be able to connect or make the other person understand you or your intent. So I
Mm.
think there's just something there also, that there's a lot of information actually in, if I just look at the data of it, like
Mm.
an audio file is not only equal to the transcript like a perfect transcription of the words in that
Yeah.
conversation. There's also a lot of other information in there. So, I mean, I think that's part of moving up the intent stack, actually, when I think about it.
Mm.
Have we seen anything like that? Do you know any good examples of
The,
like how that has translated?
no, so the only audio interfaces are the Google Home and like those interfaces, Alexa, Siri, and they have not yet leveled up to the LM world or era. So and but they will be, and they are an example of sort of an embodiment of AI in our lives. And of course, that's where also where audio comes in. That as soon as you want to have a robot, no matter if it's a dishwashing machine or a Roomba that you can talk to, audio is
Yeah,
going to be the natural interface. As soon as you have an embodied AI presence, audio is gonna, like, you never want to write to a Roomba who is in the same room. That's just gonna feel
yeah,
stupid.
yeah. And it's interesting also on the topic of like conversation. I mean, you used the word ambience, but if I'm
Mm,
there is something very profoundly different in like both the speed of information exchange, like in a chat and in like voice. And I mean, I can just imagine that it's actually might be easier to enable autonomy using like voice as the medium, because there will be so many more cues for the AI to understand you and be able to respond
mm,
autonomously, like, filling the silence, so to say, even when there's not like, do this for me, or
mm.
asking a very clear question. Um, so, like, what are examples out there today, right? We talked like chatted just a little bit before, right? We have I mean, actually, you can talk about that. I heard like I listened to good talk with Mr. Beast
Yeah.
the other day, and just to make like very clear things that are possible like from just a business standpoint. So he wasn't currently like actively using like voice cloning features, basically where he clones his own voice and which enables content to be created without him speaking himself, because he does these hugely expensive productions of like $2 million every 2 weeks or something to produce the piece of content that he releases.
Mm,
And one of the things that, uh, but he had experimented with it, and apparently the metrics they track in terms of engagement and like were very like are quite small in terms of like basically him speaking himself or a voice clone um,
do you mean
like
the the
speaking
the,
instead.
the differences in metrics
Yeah,
were
yeah. The
small?
difference
Yeah.
in the metrics are small, but like they were
Yeah.
still worse. So he hadn't switched, but they were very small already.
Mm.
And the natural thing he looked at there is they have basically people dubbing him in like every language. He has like 50% of his. I mean, he speaks English, but he has
Yeah.
50% of his viewers in other like from people who don't speak English and
Yeah.
listening to him in other languages. And there he has like professional, like I mean, people who dub him
Mm,
in these languages. But I mean, that's something very few can afford, right? If you look at creators in the creator economy,
mm.
like I mean, for example, in this podcast, right? We're not gonna hire dubbers for like to impersonate us. One for you, one for me in like 5 languages, right? Or even
No.
one language, likely. But that's soon going to be available,
Yeah.
which sort of, I mean, this is another tangent, but that changes things quite a lot in terms of just communication, whether it's
Mm.
pre-recorded like this, that we can reach a global audience from day one, but also, I mean, in of course live conversation. I mean, the bobblefish. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
what that's. Was that the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Where is that from?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
the little thing you put in
Mm.
the fish you put in your ear, and then you
Yeah.
can hear every language and understand each other.
Mm.
And this is, potentially that, quite
Mm.
soon. But I think those would like for me quite concrete examples of where like we have so much of our media that is like and our communication that is spoken,
Mm.
and before AI is really there with us, it won't affect that content much.
Yeah.
But it's really like really getting there fast is at least my impression from listening to him talk.
Mm.
even though I haven't experimented much with it myself.
And for real-time dubbing, then you can do that with video as well, pretty
Yeah,
soon. So you can have a video chat where you see each other talk in a different language than at like at the receiver's end than
yeah.
at the sender's end.
And I mean, I imagine like, just video dubbing as well. Like I mean, there's probably already software for that, like
Mm,
adapting my voice, like sorry, the way my mouth moves to make it seem like I speak Spanish and then I'm dubbed. So,
mm.
I mean, that stuff is probably going to be mainstream available relatively soon, right?
Yeah, if it isn't already. Um, and just to give a brief background, what has led the revolution, like the big boom in both speech to text and text to speech, like the translation between uh, the real world audio and the virtual or digital text in both directions is actually again open source. That on the speech to text side, it was Whisper released by OpenAI that has been cloned in many versions, and on the other side, it was a library called Tortoise TTS, which was which provides very high quality text to speech if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, and that has been forked and cloned by many commercial services. Like among those is 11 Labs, which is the number one in the market now in terms of just developer experience and also like in combination with output quality. And um, and um, the, they they cl- basically cloned Tortoise and started fine tuning it to and do voice cloning and so on, and have built a really good business on top of that. And there's so many others, like Deepgram and Play HT and so on, which are doing the same. And oh, sorry, Deepgram is actually speech to text, but there's so that space is just the new um, services are coming up every day now
Yeah,
with competing offerings, and there's like one really big benchmark is how fast they are, and they are also competing on that end, and that's also happening in open source where there's a faster version of Whisper called Faster Whisper, and and then like what is needed for real time to have real time conversations is that you're actually streaming the audio, and so that you can, as soon as you get the first bite of the audio stream, you can start playing. You don't have to wait for the entire. And 11 Labs is pretty unique in that they provide input streaming as well. And of course, OpenAI, if you want to stream text from OpenAI into audio, then OpenAI um, provides a streaming API, so you get every word basically, or maybe even half a word. Sometimes every token comes in as a stream individually, and then you can, with your server as a middleman, you can stream word by word to 11 Labs, and they will start generating the audio stream from the first token. So when you get the first audio byte back, there's been maybe a second or so of lag, and and that is like everybody in this space are trying to find the ways to reduce that lag.
and is there like a difference between speech to text and text to speech in this sense? Is like one of them solved and the other one is not? Or is this the same? Like, is it just like the inverse and they both work via these services? In the sense, like, because then I mean, you have text to speech, speech to text, and then you have speech to speech, right? Which
Mm,
is the way you can really interact like ambiently, like you say, having a phone call with your AI. And of course, I've heard demos of like an assistant AI calling up a hairdresser and booking a
mm,
time for
mm.
someone. which is of course going to be like
Yeah.
um, very useful going
Yeah.
forward.
I would say that speech to text is much more solved in the sense that you mean because the output quality is good enough for the AI to understand. But there's but on the text to speech side, our perception of audio is so keen, like we can really hear that still that there's a machine talking, but we are approaching very fast now the limit where it's not perceptible anymore that it's a
Mm.
machine. But then it has to do with instead with intelligence about just understanding, because it's one thing to be able to express emotions through voice, to set that this phrase should be played with a happy voice or an angry voice, but then to modulate that expression, that emotion, and know when to apply what emotion, and so that's going to be that's like the next field of research, which is going to take a lot of um, time, I think, to get to perfection, because it's the things that are moving fast now are very technical in nature, and the things that are more human in nature, like how do you actually hold a conversation, and how do you actually understand each other in a conversation, that's going to be a much slower process to refine.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I can really see that's the level up, right? From like when the AI can both understand and express the subtleties of
Mm,
conversation, right? Of your
yeah.
voice. And of course, that will apply to video as well, having like true deep fakes or true, clones of yourself, if we
Mm,
look at it in a possible, but like in a positive manner,
mm,
will of course require it to actually grasp those
yeah.
nuances, like and express them. But I mean, I don't really see that if you train it on like 1,000 hours of video of me, which there is
Mm,
not, but if there was,
mm,
there is of a lot of influencers, etc., right, and actors. Then I mean, I it makes sense to me that an transformer, like something like an LLM type model, would be able to just um, yeah, I mean, express all those like nuances
yeah.
as me, um, and of course, I mean, I guess in the Google Assistant kind of demo versions, they've sort of defined the voice of the assistant, right? They've
Mm,
sort of or trained on a specific set, and then all everything it tries to do is expressed through that sort of digital AI personality,
yeah.
with that voice, etc. Um, Interesting, but that feels like it is like it's like pretty obvious it's going to be a solved problem, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that, yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's not like AGI or consciousness where it's just a completely black hole, or like with an event horizon where we don't know how things are going to progress. Like the roadmap is pretty clear on, and like the timeline is evolving faster than you can expect. There's also, like, you have to be aware when every time you see a demo, it's very easy to
yeah,
produce really nice demos of stuff, because then you can uh, you can do 5 takes and just publish the best one,
yeah.
and that's not gonna hold up in a production environment. So that it's a very different thing, like to have a good demo and have a solid, robust solution that is ready for the real world. But the robust solutions are um, this, like for the basic use cases, are already there.
And it's interesting. I mean, because like going back to the beginning of like new UI paradigms of like within, or sorry, new UIs within this intent-based
Mhm.
AI paradigm.
Yeah.
It feels like, voice, could be, I still don't see, Chat GPT or chat as having been the killer kind of interface, because it's a little bit like when we only had terminals in the computer, most people didn't use them. you
Mm.
had to be like quite, I don't know, a certain type of person. I'd say maybe technically minded or left-brained or whatever you want to say, to use that. And I think we're going to see like the numbers coming out over time, probably. But my guess is that really the chat-based interface has quite a low upper limit in terms of users globally.
Mm.
Whereas with voice, I can really imagine that as being like so natural to people, and the thing that makes, Alexa, and I mean maybe even more so Siri and whatever Google will or Android will call their assistant, right?
Mm.
Moving from Bixby, which is so annoying when
Mm.
I've tried like Android phones. Uh, I could really feel like that's gonna get it out to the billion people pretty quickly,
Mm.
like billions of people, because we're so used to talking with our phones, so to say, usually like with other
Yeah.
people, right? But already giving voice commands to our phones is, I don't know how many people use it, but I'd say it's relatively widely used.
Yeah.
And and if you always have that AI assistant talking to it on your phone, like you always have it available, just hey Siri or equivalent.
Mm.
That's really, I think that's probably the, or very likely to be the, the major killer interface of this paradigm. But we'll see, of course. But it makes a lot of sense to me. I think.
Mm.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. No, I think so too. And I also feel like it's going to leverage or sorry, level the playing field for AI by making it more accessible to a lot of people. That ChatGPT is still very technical as an interface, and having a voice interface will democratize AI in a big way as
Mm.
well.
And if we look at like opportunities in terms of we're startup people, right? That's what we do.
Hmm.
And then my sense is though that if that assumption is true, and please challenge me on this, like is if the assumption is true that voice will be at least a or the killer UI of this paradigm of interacting with AI,
Mm.
is anyone going to have a chance against Google and Apple? Like, is any other app that is not, that is outside of that going to be, able to break through? I mean, maybe in more specific things, like maybe Siri won't be the service to create a voice clone of yourself to dub your videos or whatever. But
Yeah.
what's your sense there when you've been looking at this space? What's being built and what you're excited about? What are the opportunities generally you
So
feel for startups?
yeah, I think that for startups in general, the opportunity is in one is in pioneering new technology, which is basically what these companies we've been talking about are doing, and they are moving faster than with just because their efforts are much more focused. They're moving faster than what the big players are, and but also they are also then providing blueprints to Google and Apple that can
Yeah.
just see like either what should we build or what should we buy that in this space. And but the other way, there is also a scene of or a market of chatbots which are more relationship building than what Siri and Google Home will ever be. Apple doesn't want you to form a strong attachment, the relationship with Siri, and so if you there are already um, startups that take that route to say that
Mm.
here's a companion, here's like even here's your new chat based girlfriend, or
Yeah.
here's someone you can have a relationship with, and and that's also a way to to be unique in the market as a startup. And just like now I mentioned the extremes, but think about what Google and Apple, since they are forced to be mainstream and do only mainstream things, it means that they're not going to go down niches, not even if a niche is like 100 million people market, they're not going to go there
Yeah.
because it's still too small in some sense.
Yeah, and that sort of brings me back to kind of, I don't know if the right frame is data, but let's use that. So if we take the example that I've heard about the chat-based girlfriend, so to say, was this influencer who created a chat-based kind of version of herself, like
Yes.
trained a little model, and
Yeah.
then made like a lot of money. Basically, signed up I don't know how many,
Mm-hmm.
boyfriends globally. And
Mm.
what did she do there? She basically took the data, or her data, right? There was something valuable in that data. People maybe like appreciated her looks and or her
It was
personality,
actually
etc.
only, it was only her voice. She just cloned her voice, and
It
you
was her
didn't.
voice. It wasn't chat.
Yeah.
It was just voice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it wasn't, it wasn't talking to her and having access to any personal information. It was only like talking to her, to a general chatbot, knowing nothing about her life but with her voice, and
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's might, go further. Like if we just move into the future of like deep, like real-time deep fake videos, you
Hmm.
could literally, she could have if she has a lot of video content,
Mm.
you could literally have like what feels like a very real
Yeah.
relationship with this person,
Mm.
this actual person, but it's not her, of course, but it's the representation of her. So yeah, I agree. I think the opportunity is probably there as well, lies in like um, using this technology on specific pools of data,
Mm.
representing something valuable, like her personality, or her as a attractive potential girlfriend,
Mm.
right? Or uh, a company having a lot of unique data, and therefore or knowledge or capabilities that can be accessed
Mm.
through these models. And I think, like, I don't know, I think we should probably round off now. We're going off over 30 now,
Yeah.
but just in one sense, it feels still to me like you have the big players, like you say, they're going to go mainstream, they're going to have foundational models, they're going to have general interfaces, and they're going to be big winners in this. And then you have these 11 labs type, LangChain, etc., type products that enable startups or existing companies with some type of valuable data or interface
Mm.
to, they're enablers basically. And then you have the end applications that are probably going to be, most of them are probably going to be very niche
Yeah.
in terms of like using those and applying them to, say, a digital partner.
Mm.
Um, do you have any final thoughts around this? Like, what's your takeaways from this chat?
Um, no, I just had one reflection now that if we look at the Spike Jones movie Her, um, which is sort
Yeah.
of a future forward look on AI, and other movies like Ex Machina and so on, of course, um, and audio and voice is the natural interface to AI in the entire a realm of science fiction, just because it wouldn't be exciting to see someone sit down and chat. I mean, write to an AI. You want to,
Yeah.
and but I think that also shapes our perception of what AI is going to be in the end. That we see those
Mm.
kinds of depictions on the big screen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit like it's going to be both like the AI moving towards being less and less distinguishable from humans, you
Mm.
know, text, like chat, voice, video, and then of course the physical, like Ex Machina kind of Optimus thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and then there's probably going to be, which probably another talk, but I mean, there's a lot of things these models are going to, like AI is going to be able to express, and ways they're going to be able to express themselves that we can't, just on a screen, right? For example,
Mm.
what can they do there? Or, with AR or VR, like
Yeah.
how can they express themselves?
Mm.
You know, But anyhow, chat
That
for another time probably.
yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for today, both you, Rasmus, and our dear listener, for staying with us all the way to the end. And see you again when we're doing the next episode of Co-Creating with AI.